years later, it still holds up. So let me start by giving you a few factoids about this movie. One thing that is immediately recognizable about this film, as opposed to other films from the era, is when they were casting Arnold. First of all, he was too big, so they were like, "You got to lose some weight. You're too fucking yoinked." So he lost some weight, but even so, when he showed up on set, they were like, "Fuck, you're huge, dude. We can't get a body double for you." So Arnold actually trained for this movie for like 18 months because he ended up having to do all of his own stunts, all of them, because they couldn't find a body double that matched his body. There just wasn't one in the world, which reminds you, in the era of the 80s, he quite literally was the biggest guy. Like he was so jacked. He was so jacked. And so he ended up doing all of his own stunts, which included, he had to learn how to horseback ride. He had to learn how to sword fight. He had to learn how to do all of that. So like every time you see Arnold on camera, it's Arnold, which is so fucking impressive. Now, it also leads to one of the biggest kind of like urban legends about this movie. The urban legend about this movie, which I've never heard Arnold talk about it, but animal rights organizations got really pissed off at this movie. Really pissed off. Mainly because, for two reasons. One, apparently they actually used like wild dogs, or like dogs that were actually like super dangerous on set for that one scene. And two, Arnold might have actually punched that camel in the face. Now, why Arnold punched that camel in the face, some speculate, is because they worked with the same camel for almost the entirety of that movie, and Arnold had to ride that camel. And there's one line where the guy goes, "Have you ever rode a camel before?" And Arnold goes, "No." And you can just see how like deeply uncomfortable he is riding that camel. So there's another part of this legend. The second part of this legend is that they used a ton of stage blood on this movie, an absolute metric fuck ton. And they used so much of it that they actually had to cut a lot of the really violent scenes out, or refilm them, or reframe them. Apparently, the original scene of Conan's mother getting her head cut off showed her like stumped neck, and it was actually zoomed out, but they zoomed it in because they got notes back that the film was way too violent, which in my opinion leads to one of the most iconic shots in film history. That head just falling through the frame is so perfect. However, they were filming on very cold days during part of the film, and they had all this liquid stage blood, and the stage blood would coagulate because it was all corn syrup and water and food coloring. And so one stagehand figured out that he could keep the blood from coagulating if he put a bunch of vodka in it. So the legend is that all the cast members were drinking stage blood after they figured out that it was like 90% vodka. And so the legend is Arnold got drunk on stage blood to film the Black Lotus scene, came down the stairs, saw the camel who had basically been making his life miserable for weeks, and punched it in the fucking face. And actually knocked it the fuck out, which, listen, animal abuse is not funny. And none of this is verified. This is all speculation. This could have been movie magic. But it is kind of funny that there is a chance that Arnold got drunk on blood and punched a camel in the face. That I'm sorry, there's something humorous about that. Anyway, this movie is amazing. I don't know if some of you are aware of Conan. Conan actually came into being in the 1930s. He was like one of the original kind of like comic book pulp characters. And so he had been around forever. And when this script was first being conceived, they wanted to bring Conan into the modern era. And so the original plot of Conan the Barbarian was that Conan was a post-apocalyptic hero who, after the end of the world, rose to like reorganize the globe after nuclear war. So the original script of this actually has Conan like Mad Max style dominating the waste. And yeah, like Fist of North Star or, you know, any of those. So, this movie went through so many iterations. At one point, they had Sylvester Stallone on board. At one point, they had all of like the fucking action stars of the day on board to play Conan in the different iterations. And they finally landed on Arnold. And obviously, it changed the course of Arnold's life and our lives, because eventually it would lead to him being governor. And actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the office of the governor of California, Arnold kept Conan the Barbarian's sword above his door. Full circle. So yeah, I mean, this movie is so incredible for so many reasons. Ultimately, there is a second movie called Conan the Destroyer. And because of Arnold's kind of mainline success and the studios want to make Conan a more approachable property, they made it much more family friendly and like much more fantasy centric. It's not like dark fantasy. It's not like sword and sorcery. It's like much more like Willow. It's just not as good. It's not good at all. And so it never succeeded. But however, it was originally planned that Conan would be a whole series of movies. Also, there was another character from kind of like the Conan universe called Kull the Conqueror. And Kull was the inspiration for two characters in this film. One, Thulsa Doom, because he's like the antagonist, but also Kull is the inspiration for the other king that he visits, which is also why people think that Conan the Conqueror is kind of going to be that, like, where Arnold is in that same position as the king in like the beginning of this movie, where like he's gone through his life and just like the quote, gold doesn't have the same lusters, diamonds stop sparkling, and all that matters is the love of his family. So I'm very excited to see what Conan the Conqueror actually comes to bear. If it's not an R-rated film, I'm going to kill myself. The other thing that's really interesting is when they were writing this movie, they like the writers and the directors and Arnold got really into like the Tao of war and like warlords. And so they apparently all got really into like reading about Genghis Khan. And so that one line where he's like, to crush your enemies, see them driven before you and hear the lamentations of their women. Apparently, Arnold just freestyled that after reading a bunch about Genghis Khan. Like he did his best to do like a real Genghis quote. So it's like it's like kind of like a a mashup of like something I guess Genghis actually said or like experienced with like Arnold's delivery. It's incredible. It's awesome. It's so ridiculous that they were drinking blood on set and they all got injured. They all got injured. By the way, there's one scene where Arnold like tears his hand open and there's a bunch of real blood. And the director was like, yeah, that looks pretty good. We're going to keep that. So like they really did become feral while making this movie. You know what I mean? Like Arnold was doing all of his own stunts. They were getting hurt. They were drinking blood. It was just kind of fast and free love in the 80s. And this movie just, it pours that out of every single frame that it's like, it's just a pure movie. The other thing I will say, and I hope they understand this, part of the reason Conan succeeded so totally is James Earl Jones is one of the best actors of any generation. And James Earl Jones put his whole fucking badussy into Thulsa Doom. Like, I mean, it's a silly movie, but James Earl Jones is actually terrifying. When he looks at that one cultist and is like, come here, my child, come here. And she just kills herself. And he's like, that is power. That is the riddle of steel. I'm like, oh, shit. Incredible. Incredible. Also, I think, okay, I'm going to say this, and I know some people will disagree. But as a D&D nerd, I don't think there is any movie, including the Dungeons and Dragons movie, that even gets close on putting together a party and going on an adventure. Like, I don't even know if that was their intention when they were making Conan the Barbarian, but it is so D&D coded where literally he finds the first guy, he's chained up by the witch, he like lets him out. Then they find the Valkyrie who he like falls in love with. Then the old king is like, you dare to find me? I love it. And then it's like they give him the mission and then they find the wizard. It's just like, it's so awesome. It's so awesome how they go from like location to location and they add members to the party. And the other thing about it is like within 10 seconds, they're best friends. I don't know why that is so D&D coded, but the whole like, I'm left here. Just give me some meat so I can fight these wolves when I die. And then he's like, best friend? It's so awesome. Like then they meet the Valkyrie and she's like, what do you want? You're going to go in there? Yeah, you're going to fucking die. Do you want to live forever? Like it's just, yeah, like everybody, or even the wizard where he's like, can you summon demons? I'll summon a demon more furious than all in hell. And then they just kind of stop and they go, ah! It's so fucking awesome. They do it 4 times in the movie and it hits they do the, you son of a bitch, I'm in. They do it 4 times. And every time I'm so in. It's so fucking good, man. The other thing that they do, which even like Lord of the Rings does it a little bit, but I've never seen a movie do it this well, is like him adding loot. Like in the first scene in the movie, he's like in a fucking G-string and like shackles. And every scene he kind of like adds one piece of loot until that like last crusade where he's got like a full suit of armor, a helmet, a spear, 2 swords. It's like, yes, dude. Oh, yes. Fucking incredible, man. 6 consoles. Anyway, this is like my comfort movie. I think there's something awesome about this movie, and I think, allow me to be verbose and kind of assign credit where maybe it's not due. But I think somewhere in this movie, there is actually hidden a kind of positive message about like masculinity, which is crazy, But I do think like his even relationship with the female protagonist in this movie is like, for the era, almost unheard of. Let's start there, right? Like, you actually have a female protagonist that passes the Bechdel test in this movie, which is fucking crazy. That like one of the most empowered, cool, badass women in an 80s movie was in Conan the Barbarian. It's like, what? Huh? She's so dope. I'm always like blown away by that. But also kind of like this subtle messaging that like steel weapons are not as important as the hand that wields them. Like that is the end of the riddle of steel, is that human beings are more important than the weapons that they wield. Like there are some parts in this movie where I'm like, I mean, that's kind of profound, man. Where did that? Or like the gold doesn't have his luster. All that matters is the love of your family. It's like, wait a minute. Oh, hold on. Anyway, I don't know. I love this. I love this movie. I know it's hokey. Honestly, I probably haven't shown it up until now for two reasons. One, it wasn't a free movie. But two, I think it's one of those movies that's like so close to my heart that I think I would be sad if y'all didn't like it. I think it's one of those that I just enjoy so much that I don't know if I can just even be objective about it. It's one of the few movies where I'm like, I can't. I simply cannot. Anyway, are you secretly super old, Will? No, I don't think I'm super old, but you guys got to remember I have a 100-year-old dad. And I was basically kind of left to my own devices most of the time. And so I also had two brothers that were like much, much older than me. So I got a lot of hand-me-downs that probably were before my era. Listen, Eldridge Being. Yeah. Soundtrack was straight gasoline. I mean, dude. This soundtrack is fucking unreal. The DVD commentary with John Milius and Arnold is by far the funniest I've ever heard. For Arnold, it was a stepping stone to fame. For John, it was the culmination of his career. Arnold complains the child actor playing him looks like a girl. And when that guy gets hit in the nuts, he belly laughs for 2 straight minutes. That is fucking awesome. Do you know how they created the demons in this movie? Yeah, they animated them with milk. No, they were animated. So what they did is they filmed the scene, and then they did like a panel animation that they overlaid. So all of those were like hand drawn after they filmed everything. Really cool filmmaking style. Where's my... Are you aware Primal creator Gendry Tartakovsky is making a Conan animated series? Yes, I am. So I don't know what happened, but they got a hold of the Conan properties, the Conan IP, and they're dusting it off. So there is going to be a Conan live action 3rd movie to finish the trilogy. And there's also going to be a Conan animated, which is like perfect timing. What is best in life? To crush your enemies. See them driven before you. Where was it shot, Will? I actually don't know that. I know that they got in trouble for building all those sets because apparently they just built a lot of the sets in the middle of nowhere and just left them. Spain. Okay, there you go. It was filmed in Spain. I didn't know that, but I did know they built all those sets like in the countryside and just left them. And so people got pissed at them for that too. How did he get those big titties, Will? Hard work and steroids. Do you think this movie would have improved with some New York Ninjas? I mean, yes, probably. You are allowed to fully enjoy things that are you also a fan of Conan the Librarian? Not sure I know him. Have you played any of the Conan games? Yes. I played Conan Exiles, which I actually really enjoyed. Is there another movie with a giant snake fight? I remember it differently. I can't read your mind there. They have a New York Ninja comic book. Hell yeah. Dude. The fight in that is incredible. Who did the producers want aside from Arnold? Stallone is like the one name I remember that they were going to possibly cast as Conan. Okay, if they were to do his son in the movie, thoughts? His son? I mean, yeah, fuck yeah. Do, 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 do. Isn't Red Sonja the third Conan movie? As I understand it, isn't Arnold in Red Sonja not technically Conan because of like licensing stuff? Correct. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Thoughts on Jason Momoa's Conan movie? It sucks. The Conan remake was trash. They didn't understand the film at all. Bam, 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 bam. He's got some other name in Red Sonja. Yeah, but as I understand it, that is not because they didn't want to have Conan in the movie. It's because there was a licensing problem and they couldn't get the Conan licensing. Have you ever seen Red Sonja? Of course. Damn Marvel. I think Conan's owned by something else other than Marvel. I swear we watched Conan the Destroyer here one night. Yeah? No, we did not. Guarantee you we did not. Is it Dark Horse? It might be Dark Horse. That might be Dark Horse. Cabinet Entertainment. Funcom. Marvel had the rights to Conan for a minute. He was an Avenger. I didn't know that. Interesting. Yeah, dude, you know what's crazy is Conan becomes that explains it. That's why they're doing all the Conan stuff. They're doing all the Conan stuff right now because in 2033 Conan becomes public domain. Well, I was like, it's interesting that they're doing all these Conan projects. Of course, they're squeezing the last drop out before it becomes public domain. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'll still be watching. Will, what do you think the strongest influence in fantasy that Conan is responsible for? Will, what do you think the strongest influence in fantasy that Conan is responsible for? I don't really understand your question. But as I was saying before, I think more than Conan, Frank Frazetta, is like the guy in Sword and Sorcery. Like, if Sword and Sorcery had a look, it would be the Frank Frazetta art. Like, I look at this original art and I see so many projects. Like, this is the fucking Diablo Barbarian with the winged helm right here. You know what I mean? Like, so much. There's Conan the Barbarian right there. So much Gimli. There's so much of fantasy was inspired by Frank Frazetta's art. And like it kind of like gave birth to like the Sword and Sorcery dark fantasy style. Like, my man created it. And I'm not the only person that thinks that. I know you're probably looking at that art. No, it didn't. You're so wrong. You're so fucking wrong. And I'm about to prove something to you. I'm not the only person that thinks that. Because Frank Frazetta original art pieces are some of the most expensive pieces of art on the planet now. Like, if you want an original Frank Frazetta, it's going to cost you over $1 million now. So like, all of the Giga nerds collect Frank Frazetta. Like, you can't get a original piece of his anymore. It's almost impossible because he's like the guy. By the way, if you look at his Wikipedia, his title is the Godfather of all fantasy art. I'm telling you, like, he's the guy. But did he do Rule 34? He didn't have to, because like the women he was already depicting were, I mean, like,
oh yeah, wow, that's very cool.
Movie was Grug losing sleep as an East Coaster every Wednesday is the
he
highlight
didn't even
of my
have
work
to
week, Grug.
sex this up. Like, basically every woman that Frank Frazetta ever drew was, I mean, it was already there, bro. Yeah, it was already full tilt. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think, like, obviously, you know, stuff like this was responsible for inspiring the nerds that helped create the foundation for like most of the stuff I enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, the D&D nerds started with stuff like this, and then kind of like, you know, it built, oh my God. You can buy a Conan the Barbarian sword. Shut the oh my God. Do, 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 do. Anyway. Peanut. I have a set of these. They're fucking fun. Oh my God. There's Frank Franzetta secret lair cards. Holy shit. So fucking cool. He's so cool. Dude. They cost a dime? I bet. Anyway. I hope you enjoyed that. Well, it's Franzetta. There's no N in it. Franzetta? Frazetta? Is it Frazetta? Whatever. Frazetta. I don't know the name. I just know the sound it makes when it takes a man's life. Oh, wait, what is this?
Frazetta Friday, Frazetta fans. I'm Sarah, and this is Frazetta Fridays with Frazetta Girls. Today we are going to be talking about perhaps one of the most influential pairings in history, Frank Frazetta and Conan the Barbarian. Robert E. Howard was just 26
I didn't even know this existed.
years old when he created the iconic character Conan the Barbarian, who smashed the mold of his literary contemporaries. Howard's Conan didn't just participate in the world of sword and sorcery, he came to define it and rose as the genre's most formidable savage. Howard first introduced Conan in The Phoenix on the Sword, which was published in Weird Tales magazine. His stories of uninhibited freedom and sheer adventure quickly resonated with the Weird Tales audience. They couldn't get enough Conan. Conan was like none other. He embodied the fierce survival instincts and unstoppable will of a warrior, born with a complex moral code and insane physical ability. Despite his success with 21 published short stories of our favorite barbarian, Howard wanted more and aspired to expand Conan's adventure into a full-length novel titled The Hour of the Dragon. After laboring intensively on the manuscript, writing approximately 5,000 words a day for 2 months, Howard faced a terrible letdown when the intended publisher went bankrupt. By God's grace, or should I say, Crom's grace, Conan fans were eventually able to read the novel Howard worked so hard on when it was serialized in Weird Tales magazine. After the final publication of The Hour of the Dragon, Howard was confronted with harsh news that his mother's battle with tuberculosis was worsening. Howard was an only child and was deeply connected to his mother, who had nurtured his love for poetry and storytelling since he was a young boy. Their close bond was a profound influence on his life and his work. Overwhelmed by the prospect of losing her, Howard made preparations for both their passing with his literary agent. On June 11, 1936, he tragically ended his life with a gunshot. His mother passed away the very next day, marking a heartbreaking end of their intertwined lives. Though it seemed that the adventures of Conan might be consigned to oblivion because of his early demise, Robert E. Howard's legacy continued to live on in the world which he created so passionately.
By the way, is that Frazetta's granddaughter?
In 1950, Gnome Press licensed the rights from Howard's former literary agent and revived the stories. It was finally time for The Hour of the
It's his daughter. Wow.
Dragon to become the novel that Howard intended it to be. The novel was titled Conan the Conqueror and was offered as a hardcover with a cover illustration by artist John Forte. The publication broke new ground, demonstrating Howard's stories were indeed timeless. This resurgence led to the release of 4 additional books that compiled all of Howard's Conan stories, but the growing interest didn't stop there.
Conan.
L. Sprague de Camp, the assigned editor, delved into Howard's unpublished manuscripts, transforming them into new Conan adventures. De Camp's involvement continued to evolve, and he eventually achieved control over the Conan stories and the Conan brand in general. De Camp then appointed Glenn Lord to be the new literary agent representing the property, and together they helped ignite the first Howard boom. In 1966, De Camp and Lord made a deal with Lancer Books to republish the Conan series. Under the editorship of Larry Shaw, they sought to publish the first comprehensive paperback series of the Conan saga. L. Sprague de Camp and editor Lynn Carter meticulously compiled existing stories by Howard along with pastiches and new works that they authored into a cohesive timeline that chronicled Conan's life. Larry Shaw was keenly aware of standout talents in the fantasy art community and understood the importance of landing a spectacular artist for the Conan series launch. Frank Frazetta, with his eye-catching covers for Lancers The Secret People and Prime Phoenix, most known as Wolf Moon among Frazetta fans, captured Shaw's attention. Shaw proposed an offer Frazetta couldn't refuse. He nearly doubled his usual commission of $250 for $400 per cover, a figure approximating...
Bro, oh my God. Can I tell you, I've been tempted to fucking bid on a piece of his art.
$3,800 today. He also coupled this with the assurance of returning the original artworks, a concession that was rarely made at this time. Frazetta accepted, and a new era of visual storytelling was ushered in. According to Frazetta, he waited until the very last week of his deadline to begin the cover for the first Conan paperback titled Conan the Adventurer. The only creative direction he received from Shaw was to do something as iconic as James Bama did for the first Doc Savage cover. As the deadline loomed, Shaw nervously called Frazetta to make sure he had everything on track. Frazetta told Shaw that he had only just begun, but reassured him that he would get it to the office by the deadline. In typical Frazetta fashion, he arrived to Shaw's office on the very last day with the 1966 Conan the Adventurer illustration that would go on to become historic. Frazetta said when he unveiled Conan standing triumphantly over a towering pile of skeletons adorned with a Frazetta girl draped by the barbarian's side, everyone in the Lancer headquarters began oohing and awing and popping champagne, and they had quite the celebration. On record, Frazetta later commented on this historical moment. He said, "I knew it was a new look. Nobody had ever seen anything quite like it. It changed the world of illustration. It sounds arrogant, I suppose, but it's true."
That is so fucking... Dude, when the aura gamble hits, well, that one picture I did changed the world of illustration. It did!
Frank, it's not arrogant. Frazetta was the man after this Conan cover went to market. Everyone was calling to congratulate him, job offers were pouring in, he was on top of the world. It was all such a high until Roy Krinkle, his dear friend and mentor, let a bit of steam from the fiery engine of his. In late 1966, when Frazetta got the original Conan the Adventurer painting back, Roy paid him a visit. Roy, like everyone else, oohed and awed, and then bluntly said, and I quote, "This is great, Frankie, but you need to give him a fucking neck." And he had a point. I mean, Conan's shoulders were indeed up around his neck. Frazetta stood frozen and mystified as he took out his personal knife and turpentine and scraped off Conan's entire head. You'd think, how could someone get away with touching Frazetta's art? Roy Krinkle could do no wrong in Frazetta's eyes. Krinkle was more advanced at oil painting than Frazetta at this time, and he had a better grasp on anatomy, and Frazetta accepted those truths. Krinkle said Frazetta got right to work on the new head. He also reworked the girl and made her, again quoting Roy, Frazetta yummy. After Conan's necessary...
Hey, may we all be visited by some Frazetta yummy. You know what I mean? That's my kind of yummy too.
Visions, Roy went on to suggest various scenes to Frazetta for the rest of the Conan covers, which was very helpful since Frazetta wasn't a reader and Roy was a literature connoisseur. Following the iconic Conan the Adventurer in 1967, Lancer published Conan, with the cover artwork better known as Conan Manape, in addition to Conan the Warrior, Conan the Usurper, and Conan
the Usurper, that's the one. That's the one. That shit is fucking amazing. God, that shit is peak. Oh my God, that shit is peak.
Usurper and Conan the Conqueror. In 1968, Conan the Avenger came to market, and then in 1969, Conan of Cimmeria. A few years later, in 1971, Conan the Buccaneer was released, and that was the final Frazetta Conan paperback for Lancer. While Frazetta wished Howard would have been alive to see how he interpreted his character, Frazetta ultimately illustrated Conan his way, which arguably brought Howard's creation into a new level of popularity. In a later interview, Frazetta said, I went right ahead and created this character that didn't even resemble Howard's description at all.
Insane.
Mine is quite a different guy. He was what I thought the barbarian should look like, the ultimate barbarian. Howard's description was quite different. He was leaner, with shorter hair and hawkish features. I instead saw a scarred, real monster sort of guy.
Thank you for the tier 1.
That's just the way I felt the guy should look at this point. Frazetta said he painted most of these artworks in a few days because he was so inspired while working on Conan. Most of the paintings were reworked when he received them back. The revision process sometimes could take weeks, even months, until he got them exactly to his liking. There was one other Conan painting titled Conan of Aquilonia, which was set to be published in 1972.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Frazetta
Old Conan with the codpiece?
sent the original artwork to Lancer's office, per usual, and soon after was informed that the original artwork had gone missing. To this day, no one knows where the original painting ended up, and Frazetta was pissed.
There is a missing Frazetta out there. Oh my God.
He was already having issues with them for quite some time, and this was really just the icing on it all. Lancer was extremely stingy with Frazetta's pay rate. The covers were selling insane numbers, and the best number they could come up with was an additional $200 for the last 3 covers. Lancer also decided to publish the Conan the Adventurer poster without Frazetta's prior knowledge or permission. Of course, if it had been intended simply as a store advertisement, Frazetta would have been fine with it, but Lancer sold thousands of copies without giving Frazetta a cut. So, after his original art went missing, he was out. He was done. He was never looking back. To add insult to injury, Lancer sold the rights to the paperbacks to Ace and, once again, cut Frazetta out of the deal. Lancer ended up filing bankruptcy in 1974. Although this relationship ended terribly, these paperback covers were undoubtedly Frazetta's landmark works. By the mid-1970s, Frazetta became a kind of industry unto himself. From his home in Pennsylvania, he and his wife Eleanor operated a little empire, sending off thousands of posters of his artwork to fans and retailers. The book, The Fantastic Art of Frank Frazetta, published by Bantam Books, sold over 300,000 copies.
That's fucking insane.
Frazetta was at his all-time high demand. In the late 1970s, as the team behind the 1982 film adaptation of the Conan the Barbarian was taking shape, the producers, of course, reached out to Frazetta. They extended an invitation for him to join the project as the production designer and to illustrate the movie poster. Frazetta, however, declined both offers. Having had negative experiences with the property in the past and loathing travel, he chose not to engage with the film adaptation. This decision, while understandable, was, in my opinion, a significant loss for the project. I believe Frazetta's vision as a production designer would have been profound. Sad. Despite his absence, the film producers rallied and assembled a team of other talented individuals, and it led to the movie's considerable success. While Frazetta was not directly involved with this film, his influence on the character portrayal is undeniable. Arnold Schwarzenegger, who secured the role as Conan, had a strong resemblance to the muscular, formidable figure Frazetta had popularized through his artwork. When Arnold initially booked the role, he said he was actually a bit intimidated because of Frazetta's paintings. Director John...
Dude. Guys, that was a fucking film night. That was a... Get as jacked as possible. Now. Twitch. Chat. What is best in life? Crom laughs at your four winds. Chat! What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.